episode 217 Above Ground Podcast, Hemispheres.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the perspective. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Above Ground Podcast.
Welcome. Thanks for coming back and checking us out again.
Tuning in yet again.
And if you have any new listeners, we appreciate you taking a chance on us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Crush the subscribe, crush the like, crush the thumbs up, crush it all.
Crush the thumbs up.
Crush your thumb with a hammer.
Crush your thumb with a hammer.
But don't do that, because that wouldn't be good.
Yeah. And then they'll call and blame us. And,
I know.
But you know what you can do, actually? Because we haven't got one over years. We would love a nice review on Apple Podcasts.
That's true. We haven't gotten a review in a while, so go back and check out Above Ground Podcast and give us a review at Apple Podcast, that is.
Yeah, just say hi, and we listen, and we enjoy it. That's simple.
That's right. Even if you don't listen, just tell us you listen. You don't have to. Well, you know, life is comedy. Life is a tragic comedy, after all.
You know how the brain works.
Yeah, and you know what the study of the brain is as it relates to the nervous system?
Tell us, Will.
It's called neuroscience.
Neuroscience?
I'm not a scientist. I just pretend to be one behind a microphone.
Are we going to be neurosculpting?
Yeah, we're going to be neurosculpting, all right. Neuroscience is the study of how the nervous system develops and the structure of the brain and what it does, the structure of the nervous system and what it does, and how it impacts our behavior and cognitive function. And neuroscience is actually used to help find treatments for mental illness, which there's a lot of people studying these things. However, you do see a lot of commercials for newer drugs on TV at times, but there hasn't really been, at least in my estimation, a really big change in psychopharmaceuticals for a while, because they all seem to still be the ones that we're all used to anyway, hearing about.
Yeah.
So, but the brain is a very, very complicated organ, and there's so many parts to it that this kind of stemmed for me. I found an article recently about, they found that there's actually a brain function issue with people with borderline personality disorder when they are rejected. And they found that, I have to find the thing here that I was reading today.
Find it, Will.
I have. So researchers have identified a brain region called the rostromedial prefrontal cortex. So in the prefrontal cortex, and it reacts differently to social rejection in individuals with borderline personality disorder. And they say that the region is more active during episodes of rejection. And it's characterized by heightened sensitivity to rejection and emotional instability.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you're dealing with the basic emotions that most of us would, but then all of that other stuff on top of that, like another layer, because of the...
It seems like the part of the brain that's not working, the research findings, so they don't really talk too much about what the findings are. They just don't display activity when they're rejected, so that activity part of the brain doesn't fire. So they're more so because that part doesn't fire. It explains why people with borderline personality disorder are more sensitive and more distressed by rejection.
Right.
And they're actually doing this study here in New York at a CUNY school in New York. Yeah.
No kidding. I know that like mental pain and physical pain show up in the same spot. Like it lights up the same in the brain. Like
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it can't distinguish. Like just as sometimes it can't distinguish the past from the present. It just distinguishes it as the event. Like if you cut yourself on a knife, you know what I mean? But you could cut yourself on a knife on Monday and then 6 months down the road, think about that, and your brain actually picks it up as it actually is happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, well, we've talked about this before because we've interviewed some energy workers and people that have done some stuff. And we had asked about, it's amazing that all of your whole entire body runs between the top of your head and the base of your spine. So it's in that area that all your nerves are and everything else. But it's amazing that your brain is what there's so many parts to it. Well, we start with the largest part of the brain, which is the highly evolved cerebrum. That is the big mushy part on your head that's got all the things, and it's broken into the two hemispheres, being the left and right hemispheres. And then there's tons of nerves in the brain, and those nerves go directly to the muscles and sense organs in the head and the neck and the upper body. And the brain and spinal cord all work together. There's fluid in there, which makes it even more important to stay hydrated, which I'm not doing very well at these days. No, but it is important because your body is made up of 70% water, and I do notice that I get brain foggy a lot when I'm not hydrated enough.
Plus, even your movement, your muscles need. You know what I mean? It's like a fresh oil change on your car, and if your oil is low on your car, it's not going to run as well.
So the left hemisphere controls the movement of the right side of the body, which is ironic, but it actually is specialized for the ability to speak and language comprehension. And then the right hemisphere controls the movement of the left side, and that is specialized to some of the aspects of spatial processing, three-dimensional objects, and it appears to be important for non-literal aspects of language, such as metaphors. So that's interesting that we have a specific part of our brain that we actually have to use to pick up metaphors. And reading that, I never knew that, so it makes sense to me why certain people don't understand when I'm talking to them now, because I talk a lot in metaphors.
Well, not only that, but a lot of people, what the heck is it called? Like your nonverbals, you know what I mean? Your nonverbals, your facial,
like your facial expressions and stuff.
Some people can't read. Like I'm not good with those. I personally am not good with them.
Like if I was to do this, you wouldn't be. Or
I mean, I would know you're doing it, but I'm like, what the fuck is he doing?
Oh, so you wouldn't pick up if somebody was. You don't pick up really facial cues from sadness, like anger, like.
I think I'm more aware of it now, but I used to be horrendous at it, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can. That's why I was
saying.
asking.
Like I don't think it's something that, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's something that some people just don't fully develop with or what. But I just know that I'm not great with it.
The cerebral hemispheres are mapped out into 4 large regions, which are the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe, and the occipital lobe.
Oh, yeah.
Occipital. occipital.
Occipital.
Lobe.
Yeah, I think
with
that's how you. Yep.
With one of each on either half of the brain. The frontal lobes form the front of the cerebrum, and they start directly behind the forehead, important for executive functioning. And the frontal lobes are also involved in decision-making, attention, producing voluntary movements, and speech with various voluntary and involuntary abilities. Would it be an involuntary ability, like burping, maybe? Is that an involuntary? Because you're not doing it voluntarily necessarily.
Right. I think that might be also. I could be wrong, but like maybe like your kidneys are just working. You know what I mean?
Like body function is not something that
I
you
could be
do.
wrong, but that's what's coming to my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, involuntary abilities. Yeah, I guess the pumping of your organs.
Yes.
I guess that would be involuntary.
Like we don't sit here and go like we have.
Oh, I got to pump my kidney. Right.
We don't. You know it just happens. You know we're thankfully it just happens.
The parietal lobes are located behind the frontal lobes, and they contain primary sensory areas involved in processing information about taste, touch, temperature, and movement. So important about senses. So it's amazing how, as we look at the brain, and I've never like read so much about specific things about the lobes like this. It's as I'm reading this, it's interesting that our brains are broken into compartments that do the different functions. So we're actually compartmentalizing our brain because one part does this, but the other part does that. It's just interesting because yet we're all trying to be whole, but yet our brain is even in different sections.
I agree, and that's why it's almost like I've said to myself, it's like it's like a battle of the mind, because our mind is our mind. It's just the way it's built, and sometimes in order to break free out of that habitual cycle, you have to kind of battle against it and like work against it and train it to do which is more or less of the because of neuroscience we've found the plasticity or whatever the heck they want to call it.
Neuroplasticity.
Yeah. We've found that the brain is more, it's like a rubber band. It can change and it can, you can stretch it out and it's just, it's that way where you can basically learn new shit. You don't have to be stuck and go, hey, you know what? This is me. This is the way I am. I have depression, and that's the end of the story. Like, no, like this is science. We found that like you can change and you can decrease your symptoms and you can get better.
Well, that brings up an interesting question to me, because a couple weeks ago we talked about Tim's book, Never Underestimate the Power of You, and I liken like writing a song or a book or putting something together in a creative project is releasing something, right? Does your brain, do you feel like you can learn more now after you wrote the book and were able to put that stuff down? Did that change your brain on a level that you noticed at all? Did you feel different, lighter?
When I was doing it, I was like, there was a part of me that was like, when this is done, I'm going to be like more relaxed and like lighter, because, it just felt like I wasn't under any pressure. It was myself. Like I got to a point, when you get to you see the end and you're like, you're excited and anxious and all these things going on. So it makes you feel, extra tense and stressed. But I don't know. I don't know if I think I feel lighter in the sense that I'm happy and I'm proud of myself for accomplishing it, sort of thing, but I don't know. I don't know if it's, as you know, it can be very easy to fall back into old patterns.
Oh, absolutely.
It could take a pebble sometimes to trip you up, and boom, there you are, right back at it.
All right. And then next thing you know, You're starting all over again.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But the idea is to start all over again.
Right. You just keep
can't-
going. Yeah.
Doesn't matter
Because
how long it's been.
You're not really starting from scratch. You might be starting over again the process, but the stuff that you've done, you don't necessarily like. It's not diminished. It's not. You don't invalidate all the work that you did before because you're not. When you're starting over, you're starting the process like that piece over. I can't really put it into words, but yeah, you're not really starting the whole thing over because any of the progress that you made is there. So it's just a matter of like learning to swim. You jump in and you start, you start to do whatever, tread water, and you're like, oh, like you just keep trying, and then you go to you kind of doggy paddle over to the ladder, and you take a breath and you take a breather, and you sit there and you go, okay, now I'm going to do it again. And you get back out in the water and you tread again. You just keep at it, like you said.
It's about rinse and repeat, right? Sort of.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, yeah, it's definitely about repetitive stuff. I mean, it's funny because they say, like, a lot of people say like 30 days if you do this, and it's more.
I thought in Caroline Leaf, in your book, I think it said that it was like if you do it for 35 extra days or something.
Yeah, because it's like you do it for 30 to kind of learn it, but then you have to do 35 more on top of that to actually integrate it. Right.
That sounds
right.
It's
and it's
interesting
about
that
being
you're
repetitive.
And it's interesting that we're talking about the repetitive stuff because that gets us to the temporal lobes. And the temporal lobes being on the sides of the brain.
Is that the memory?
They contain the primary auditory cortices and process information from the ears. So there's your listening. They also work with the occipital lobes to process visual information. But the temporal lobes are heavily involved in learning and memory. So the repetitive stuff. And the medial temporal lobe contains the important structures of the hippocampus and the amygdala.
Boom.
And then the occipital lobes form the back section of the cerebrum, and they are the primary visual cortices and are crucial for your vision.
Like you said, it's so involved, man.
But it's almost like, whoa. Like, it's almost mind-blowing to sit here and think about it, because that thing is here.
Right.
And then when you think about all the stuff that you've heard told to you about yourself from other people that, like, actually isn't anything accurate, like, you're like, oh, well, I guess if this muscle, whatever this thing is, underneath my skull cap here is anything, it's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on up there, man.
Yeah, and like you said, if it's almost like the job of the brain is to put it in pattern, retain it and just look for the patterns. So if it's a pattern, it'll pick up on that pattern. Whether it doesn't put it in categories. Your brain doesn't realize that, hey, this is positive or negative. It's just the pattern of it.
Wow. And then you're covered up. The cortex, the cerebral cortex is the thin outermost layer of the cerebrum, and it extends across all the brain's lobes. But it's only 1.5 to 5 millimeters in width.
Eesh.
It's composed of neurons that make up our gray matter. And the gray matter is interlinked with the rest of the brain's nerve fibers, and that make up the brain's white matter. And they're the gray, they're the gray ridges that we see, like, in the brain. That's what that is.
My gray hairs.
The gray. Yeah, like your gray hairs. Pretty soon you're going to have to shave your head like me. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm fighting it. Leave me alone. Lay off me. I'm starving.
And beneath the cortex, are buried a bunch of
what?
really, really core structures that serve important functions. Important functions. The thalamus.
Thalamus. Okay.
The thalamus, man.
I've heard that.
It's an integral part of the system of sensory processing, and it's also involved in movement, emotion, memory, and other functions. The brain contains 2 thalami, one on either side.
I like them apples.
And then the hypothalamus is below the thalamus, and that plays a role in bodily regulation, including body temperature, sleep, and wakefulness, hunger. It releases, and the release of stress hormones.
Oh, it does?
Cortisol and other hormones, yep. The hypothalamus produces a number of hormones, including oxytocin, dopamine, vasopressin, and others.
Oh, all right.
It's directly connected and influences the functioning of the pituitary gland, which
go.
also releases hormones into the bloodstream, which may mean...
So if you're having a I don't know if that would be like an endocrine thing, or if you're having a thalamus issue, then you could end up having mental health issues, right? Because if that is
Sure. I mean, you're talking about oxytocin and dopamine, so you're talking about 2 very important chemicals.
And even the cortisol.
Well, right, and right, because it's in the control of the release of the stress hormone and other hormones.
Which
so
I just found out pretty recently that like you need some cortisol. You need that balance of those things. I never realized that too little cortisol is actually deathly. It's very bad.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that because our bodies make cortisol. And anything our bodies make, we need that bit of it. It's when we get more of it. And our bodies, like me with cholesterol, like I produce more cholesterol than other people.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's because sometimes it's not, yes, it can be diet, and a lot of times it's diet, but some people do just produce more. Their bodies are different.
That's a good way to look at it. You know, if your body produces it, obviously it's...
And then we've got our favorite almond-shaped, the amygdala. Amygdala also helps integrate emotional aspects of experience into memory.
Yay.
And produces fear-based memories and learning.
Yay.
Oh, my goodness. No wonder why those almonds are so peculiar.
Yeah, those are fun. You know, and I think when there's a major problem is that it's overactive.
An overactive amygdala?
Yeah.
Well,
for some reason
they are kind of it is almond. They are kind of nuts.
True.
Ooh, that was cool. It was like, whoa,
what was
yeah.
that?
Hey. And the amygdala and its neighbor, the hippocampus, are 2 major components of our limbic jukebox, the limbic system. That's
Nice.
right. And the hippocampus is named because it resembles a seahorse's shape, and it's central to the creation and filing away of memories.
I did not know this.
It is also involved in spatial processing and the ability to find one's way around. There are 2 hippocampi in the brain, along with the amygdalae. They are major parts of the limbic system. And the clusters of neurons are called the basal ganglia. And they're important for coordinating the basal ganglia. Yeah, they're important for coordinating physical movements, including habitual behaviors.
See, too much cortisol actually is what overstimulates the amygdala. It heightens stress levels. I mean, because it's the stress hormone, so obviously it's going to heighten stress levels. But it actually decreases activity in the hippocampus. Yeah.
Then we get to the cerebellum. And in Latin, the word cerebellum means little brain.
Does it?
Yeah. Yep, and it's packed with 50% of the neurons contained in the entire nervous system.
Jesus.
Yep, it's located at the rear and toward the bottom of the brain beneath the cerebrum and behind the brainstem. It contains 2 hemispheres of its own, each containing an outer layer of gray matter and an inner area of white matter. So I guess if you pulled the gray matter back, it would be white underneath.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
I guess. Well, this is Faces of Death after all.
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
We're gonna
Crash course in brain surgery.
Yeah, that's what I. Then from the cerebellum, because the cerebellum plays a central role in controlling the body's movements and also the learning of physical tasks. And its bases on signals from the inner ears and muscles. And the cerebellum enables the body to maintain balance and posture. And then the very last part of the brain. And then your science lesson is done today, boys and girls. We get to the brainstem. Ooh, and the brainstem situated at the bottom of the brain and made up of 3 main parts. The midbrain, the pons, and the piece de la resistance, the medulla oblongata.
The medulla oblongata.
The midbrain is the highest part of the brainstem. And among other functions, it's responsible for certain reflexes, helps process visual and auditory information, and contributes to the control of eye movement as well as other body movements. Then, the pons, which from the Latin is for the word bridge, is a base for connections between different parts of the brain, including between the cerebellum and the cerebral cortex, as well as between the cerebellum and the medulla. And it contains endpoints of several cranial nerves that link the face region in the brain. So maybe the pons is affected when people have strokes then, if people don't get function back to their face, maybe?
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Me trying to play scientist over here. And then we got the medulla oblongata. It's the lowest part of the brainstem. And it's important for the control of basic involuntary functions such as breathing, digestion, heart rate, certain reflexes like gag or sneezing, and it is directly joined with the spinal cord and helps to carry signals from the spine to the rest of the brain. So, boys and girls, Colonel Sanders was right. The medulla oblongata is very important.
No, Colonel Sanders, you're wrong.
Yeah, no, Colonel Sanders was right.
You know what? I just want to point out, like, that normally, like, you talk about, like, neuroscience and the brain, you don't think much of the nervous system, but as you just showed us, the nervous system is a huge aspect to this, and I think that is part of the reason why there's a lot of people that focus on trying to calm the nervous system, because I think that can be a big piece for people. You know, once you can calm the nervous system and learn to calm the nervous system, some of the other stuff may dissipate.
I wonder if it's just in the language, because I'm hearing you say nervous system over and over again. And the thing is that it's not a nervous system, it's a nerve system. It controls the nerves because your brain controls every function of your body.
Right.
So it's not and I think that maybe like when we look at it like nervous, oh, the nervous system. Oh, like it's kind of scary in and of itself. Like
yeah.
we kind of give it a whipping already by saying the nervous system. But I understand why it's called the nervous system because it's but
I just want to go back because I butchered the word plasticity earlier. So like neuroplasticity, which I think I even mentioned in my book, but it's the ability of neural networks in the brain to change through growth and reorganization. It is when the brain is rewired to function in some way that differs from how it previously functioned. These changes range from individual neuron pathways making new connections to systematic adjustments like cortical remapping. So it's like we say in layman's terms, it's changing the way you think, and then it's going to change the way you live and see things and do things, and it's, again, that repetitive things, the repetitive motions is going to repave those neural pathways, because they're already laid. We talk about the needle and putting it on the record, like those neural pathways in that record have been laid, since birth, so they're there ingrained. And we may not be able to fully change those. So we learn to do what we can and then lay new pathways that might kind of bypass them and learn ways how to handle ourselves and change our reaction to what's happening.
And you can't change a highway all at once. You
No,
gotta change it piece by
right.
piece. So just fix the part of the highway that's broken. You may not even have to fix the whole highway.
That's true.
Like, do some road work. Put a
Road
construction
work.
crew on there and see what you got going on. Because as we proved by going through the pieces of the brain and doing the brain surgery, it's so complicated to think of this organ that's in our body, man. Like it's wow. Like, it's science. Like, it's just crazy to every time. Like, I'm amazed because I'm curious about it, because it's interesting how this thing up here that provides all these functions and allows us to actually be like, have a personality and all these things, that it's really just energy. That's it. I mean, if you break it down to the very, very core, like, cell, that's all it is energy. There's nothing there. But yet the energy comes together and then it creates these things that grow out of it. And they grow out of this little thing that is your that is your spine. Like, it literally is this small thing that grows. Everything grows off the spinal column.
And it's cool that we can influence that kind of stuff too, right? Like our nervous system, through either deep breathing, different practices like yoga, even just, walking on your grass barefoot can even help.
Yeah, grounding.
It's that's what I mean. Like, these are the things that I learned, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, these are like everyday things that most people can do that can help. Like, I don't know if people know these things.
Well, again, though, I think it comes to the point where they're almost so simple. Like, if somebody was to say, hey, if you went to take your shoes off and walked on your lawn for 20 minutes every day for a week, you would feel so much better. People would be like, what?
Yeah,
what do you mean? But it's true.
You're right.
It's true. But people don't, it's too simple for them. But yet, we have to go to places and have extravagant traditions and books and stuff and be told and led, and yet we can't.
I gotcha.
No,
you're right. You're right.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
Right.
It's like it's.
I think that
the human condition is an interesting conundrum to solve.
Oof. Yeah, I don't even know if I would even attempt to solve it.
Well, we are attempting to solve it. We're attempting to solve our.
I like to
piece of it
to put a spotlight on it. I don't know if I'm approaching it as solving anything. It's just making people more aware of it and getting the conversation started so that way they can continue it. Like, just like this could have provoked somebody just enough to go, hey, you know what? The neuroscience thing that Will was talking about is pretty cool. Like, now let me take that step into, the deep dive and start researching it for myself and reading up about it. You know what I mean?
Hey, shit, even just reading that made me want to go learn more. That's what I mean. I'm curious. But curiosity. I think curiosity plays a big part in this.
Absolutely
and
does.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about self-love. Mm-hmm. Do you think curiosity is a big part of self-love?
When you said that, that's where my head went.
Yeah, I was like, and again, our brain, like, we're talking about a very complicated set of processes and functions and things of matter.
And I think it goes to, again, it's in patterns, and it goes to like what's quick and available. So if it's quick to judge somebody, we're going to just judge somebody.
Right. It's quick. If it's quick to go to that automatic thought that you've always had about anything,
right.
It's there. And it doesn't matter if it's a
pause
right.
that we can take and go, hey, you know what? Let me get curious, not judge, and get curious and say, hey, you know, Will, what's going on? Like, you're acting a certain way. Maybe, you know, instead of like, hey, you know, Will's just mad and he's being a jerk, so let's punish him back and get him. Like, and
well, you can't be punitive.
That's what I mean.
You can't. There's certain things that can't be treated punitively.
Oh yeah, I agree, 100%. That's what I'm saying.
But don't
if you
get me
got
wrong. At a certain time, that punitive
Yeah.
stuff has to come in.
But
because,
if you get curious about it, then you can go. That allows you that break. And you get curious to go, hey, you know, let me ask you some questions. You know what I mean?
Right.
And asking, maybe if you get through 3 questions, that could lead to go, oh, wait a minute here. Like, I was wrong. You know, Will's not just an asshole. He's got some stuff going on. And now I'm going to sit here and listen with him and, you know, listen to him and see what's going on and try and help him. You know, just that little minute of being curious it can do a lot.
Well, curiosity is like a really big part of it.
It did kill the cat, though.
Nothing killed the cat because cats have 9 lives.
I know.
You.
I wanted to be funny. Leave me alone.
You cat haters. You know what they say about cat haters?
No.
They're not good people.
Well, you know. Shoot, I was going to say something about, what were we just talking about? About
the
self-love.
brain.
No, I know, but like the self-love and the curiosity and...
Oh, you have to be curious about why you're feeling a certain way or why you're triggered or why this or what about it is that in you, like, what is it? You have to go back. Because again, and we talk about this all the time, it's never that first emotion you feel. It's never the anger. Because that's not really what it's not really what you're fighting. It's something else in you. So that takes over the brain because the brain can be hijacked easily, especially when you don't know your blind spots.
Oof. That's a great way to put it.
But it's true.
Okay, you're right.
We have blind spots. We all have blind spots, but you can be
absolutely.
hijacked very easily. And it's hijacking. And I seen it. I've witnessed it in real time. I witness it all the time. And I said this to you before. I witness it in certain relationships in my life.
Okay,
I witness it with people that I feel I can be that way with because I don't feel like I would be misunderstood sometimes.
Okay.
And that's really what it is. Like, yes, I might be mad, but I'm not.
Right.
It's not that I'm trying. Like, I'm not.
You know, you feel comfortable with the person. Yeah.
Right. So you think, but that does not always help. But it's been a thing my entire life that I've noticed now that I just started to think about this over the last few weeks.
You're not seeing a therapist, are you?
I don't have a therapist currently because my last therapist I stopped seeing, but I'm still involved in my therapy stuff that I'm on. But the thing is that I don't want to talk about my shit anymore right now because there's other things that I'm trying to do for myself that I need to do before I'm going to go spew a bunch more shit. Because I don't need to rehash my story to another therapist again.
But that piece of it is something that.
But it's important to have somebody though that you can talk to.
Yeah.
And yes, and it's true, but I that insight hadn't really come full circle yet. Like it was open, like Rumi punched the light in the wall for it, but I hadn't put and then I realized like I noticed that I can get away with certain things with certain people that I might be that I wouldn't do necessarily.
I got you.
But again, like, and then you, in your mind, you're thinking because, okay, well, I do this because of this, but it's really about protection.
Right.
And it's always been about protection.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about abandonment issues and your brain. It's very hard to get a brain to feel safe when it doesn't know how to feel safe.
Right, or it's never felt safe.
At this point in my life, I've had enough safety that I know it. And to be honest with you, right now, I actually feel pretty good. There's things that I'm not happy about with myself.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be things
Yeah.
that I'm not happy with.
No, I mean that's actually a pretty good place to be in, I think, is aware enough to know that there's things you might not be happy with, but you're accepting of them too. And just realizing like, hey, you know what, they're there. I'm not gonna ignore them, but right now it's just not a it's the smoke alarm, but it's not a fire.
Yeah, I don't have a
smoke.
5 alarm going on. I don't even have something on the stove. Like it's just starting.
I get what you're saying.
It's just some. You know what? And maybe this is it too. Is that I'm more comfortable feeling that way. So letting myself feel good when I don't even think I should be feeling good is hard.
Right.
At the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's relative
But that's
to
all,
the experience.
It goes back to the neuroscience, though. I think that is like with the synapses.
Well, right.
So it's like you're allowing it and you're letting it happen, which is a good thing.
Right.
You know?
But you're also not hanging out in it all the time.
Yeah.
But brain
you
fog and everything
I don't know
else.
if I don't know if you can hang out at the same fishing spot, 24/7, I think you might want to change it up once in a while.
Well, yeah, because if you fished everything in there, what are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to catch and release the same carp you just
Right.
caught?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
No. I will not. Thank you very much.
Actually, I've never fished before, so.
You never fished?
No, dude, I've never fished
Are you
before.
kidding me?
No, I kid you not.
Oh my God.
Dude, you got to remember something. I almost drowned.
That's true.
There was a long time where
You didn't like the water.
I like the water, but you weren't going to get me out in a boat. You weren't going to get me
Okay.
There's now, I love the ocean. Like I'll go boogie board, you know what I mean?
All
I'll
right,
go
yeah,
out
yeah.
and jump in the waves and stuff,
Okay.
but yeah, I never fished. I didn't like worms. I wasn't like that. And I grew up in yes, I grew up by the canal, but I wasn't even supposed to be playing by the canal.
Right.
So I never fished, man.
Huh.
And it's sucks because I actually kind of want to learn now.
That's got to be on Will Foley's Wikipedia page, Fact or Fiction. Has
Yes.
he ever fished?
Has he? Yeah, right. Yeah, my fact or fiction.
Oh, man. Well,
Goes to show that the brain is a very complicated
yes.
device.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Device and divisive.
and I think that's part of the reason why some of us get into these state of minds is because it's so complicated and because it can hijack things, it senses danger and then sometimes tricks us into believing there is danger.
Right. It's that old feeling of going to the principal's office. And I still get that to this day. I noticed though in recent weeks and months that feeling has gone away. Because I'm comfortable with my place where I'm at.
Right, so that's the
So
effect
it
of
helps
that.
me, yes, because I'm also comfortable around the people
Right,
that generate
right.
that feeling. That or not that they generate that feeling.
I know what
That
you
they
mean.
would normally
Yes.
that a person in that position would normally generate that feeling for me. Obviously people in some sort of leadership position. And this has
Gotcha.
just come up because I've had to answer some questions myself about myself and
that's
what I am and who I am.
That's
and,
not a bad thing, I don't think, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But you realize, though, there's blind spots. And there's still blind spots. No matter how much you learn, there's still blind spots.
Yeah.
And there's probably always going to be blind spots. It's just that we have to recognize that there might be a blind spot. Because if you drive the same piece of road every day and you make that corner every day, you may not necessarily see that kid on that bike one day, right? Because you're crossing over that same street,
Right.
you're used to it, you're not used to seeing it. And then all of a sudden something throws up in your vision, and whoa, it changes it, and it's like
I don't know if this is true. I remember reading a study about like automobile accidents and the the most are like fall in the category of first year drivers and like over 50-year drivers.
right. It's the inability of the new driver,
Right.
to have any experience, the less experience, and then the experienced driver who just takes everything for granted.
Right.
And and again, that goes to the human condition, though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So many of us take just everything for granted. That's the reason why I think we can't talk about death, is because we take life for granted, that we don't want to think that we're going to end. We know we're going to, but we don't want to talk about it because that makes it real.
Oh, yeah.
But just like we don't want to talk about mental illness or things because, oh my God, that makes it real.
Right.
Oh no, that means I have this responsibility to do something about it. And that's a scary scenario for people.
That's why we do our part every Wednesday.
That's right. Join us every Wednesday, everywhere you pod. We're marching on. We hope you're enjoying the episodes. Coming up in August, we're going to be at the Summer on Central concert series. That's later in August. We'll have that coming up soon. Summer is raging on here everywhere. So make sure you get out and enjoy the sun. Take your shoes off. Put your feet in the grass. Get out there. Just put some sunscreen on. Protect yourself. Okay? You got it? You got it? Good. Until then, get well.
Be safe.
Stay
Above.
Ooh.
Thank you for giving us a listen. New episodes every Wednesday. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can share, rate, review, and even subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Other ways to support the show: follow us on social media, share the content, share our episodes. You can also buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/abovegroundpod. For further concerns, show ideas, or just to say hi, you can email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for listening and supporting mental health. Keep the conversation going and stay above.